Hi, welcome to Paranormal Kativity. Tonight I want to tell you the real story behind Annabelle the doll. Now I'm sure you've probably heard of Annabelle either from the movie with her own name or The Conjuring, but Annabelle doesn't really look like she did in the movie in real life. She actually looks a little bit more like this. Of course, she's a little bit bigger. She's like the large version of her, but she is an antique Raggedy Ann doll. I thought she might want to be present while I tell the tale of her fellow Raggedy buddy. In the 1970s, an antique Raggedy Ann doll was bought by a mom to give to her daughter who was away at college as a birthday gift, and her daughter's name was Donna. Donna and her roommate Angie were both in college sharing a small apartment while they were going to nursing school. While Donna liked to put her doll on her bed, apparently she didn't like to be there very much because she started to move around. At first it was subtle things like changing position, but then she started to do more obvious things. Sometimes she would be in an entirely different room. Sometimes she would be found standing, leaning up against furniture. If you are familiar with Raggedy Ann dolls, there's stuffing. There's no structure to this at all. So the fact that it would be standing up against something is really effing creepy. And then sometimes as they were leaving the house and they'd see it propped up or doing something that it wasn't before, they would take it, throw it on the couch, and when they'd get back, it would be in one of the other rooms or behind a closed door. About a month into these activities starting, they started finding notes around their house, penciled onto parchment paper. And it would either say, "Help us" or "Help Lou," which Lou was one of their guy friends that was always over at the house. But it would have these weird little notes. And the weirdest part about the notes is they didn't have parchment paper anywhere in the apartment. So it was just coming out of nowhere. One night they came home to find their doll on the back of its little cloth hands had liquid red drippy marks all over it. After everything had kind of added up and then they had these weird blood-like marks on the doll's hands, they were really creeped out and they decided, you know what, maybe we should contact a medium and just see what's up. The medium they contacted went on to tell them that there was a girl who was 7 years old named Annabelle Higgins who was found dead in the field that existed right where the apartments now stood. She told through the medium that she had lived happy times back then, and that she really liked Donna and Angie, and she felt loved by them and accepted, and she wanted to stay with them. Donna and Angie decided that they would accept Annabelle for who she was and allow her to live with them in their home. While they were happy with this discovery and it made sense to them, their friend Lou was not as pleased by it. He was convinced from the get-go that there was something up with this doll. And the more and more activity that happened, the more he was convinced that it was possessed by some type of evil or demonic force. As time went on, he started having reoccurring dreams involving Annabelle. And one night in particular, he experienced this dream, but it was accompanied with sleep paralysis. In the dream, he saw the doll standing at the foot of his bed, slowly crawling up the bed, up his legs, up his stomach, sitting on his chest, and strangling him. Instead of waking up from this sleep paralysis state like you would imagine you probably would when you get to your most panicked moment of the sleep paralysis, which is what occurs for me and a lot of other people who experience sleep paralysis, instead he actually blacked out due to asphyxiation. And when he came to the next morning, he was thoroughly convinced that it was not sleep paralysis, nor was it a normal reoccurring dream. This had actually happened to him. So the next day, he was over at the apartment, and he and the girls were planning a road trip. So he was going over maps with Angie and just kind of figuring out their route. They started hearing a rustling sound coming from Donna's room, and it was loud enough to the point they thought there was an intruder in the apartment. So Lou kind of very quietly rushed to the door and waited. And as soon as the rustling stopped, he barged into the room. He scoured the room top to bottom, every corner looking for forced entry, missing items, anything that could be out of place because they both heard very loudly a lot of shuffling in the room. There was nothing out of place in the entire room except Annabelle was just chucked in the corner on the floor. As Lou got closer to the doll, he started feeling an energy behind him, like a presence of a person behind him. So he spun around expecting to see whoever had broken into the room. There was nothing there, but he ended up doubled over in pain, clutching his chest and realizing that he was bleeding. He ripped open his shirt and discovered that there were claw marks on his chest, and they all felt hot, like they were burning whenever he touched them. The weird part about these scratches is that by the next day, they were over half healed, and within 2 days' time, they were gone. So after this attack happened, Donna started to lean more towards Lou on, hey, maybe this thing is a little bit more dark of an energy than we initially thought. So they decided to call in somebody of clergy and get like a religious perspective on it. They reached out to a Father Hannigan, who kind of analyzed the situation and felt that it was not up to his level of expertise. So he went a level higher and contacted Father Cook, who was another priest. He felt like they needed the help of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Ed and Lorraine are basically the #1 resource when it comes to information on the occult, the supernatural, spirits, demons, a lot of different topics. Lorraine's still around and doing her thing, and unfortunately Ed is no longer with us, but they're very well known for their expertise in supernatural fields. They went in and analyzed the situation, the doll, the presence, the attack, everything about it, and they felt that the doll wasn't necessarily possessed, but that it was being manipulated by an inhuman presence. A presence that was working on trying to take over or possess a human. They felt that they were at the infestation stage of this phenomenon, and that if it progressed within 2 to 3 weeks, somebody in that apartment would have been taken over by this energy. By them contacting that initial medium and giving voice to this energy, it was able to manipulate the medium, convince her, and therefore convince the household that it was an innocent child, something that they should welcome into their home, and they ended up inviting it to stay with them. And by doing so, they invited this energy inside the home and to be closer to these people, therefore putting everybody in a little more danger. With the Warrens being of Catholic faith, they decided that an exorcism needed to be done by Father Cook in order to cleanse the house and the space. Father Cook didn't necessarily feel comfortable with his role in this, but he read the exorcism information and did his portion of it. At the request of Donna and Angie, after the exorcism and the blessing and everything were complete, they were asked to take the Annabelle doll with them. On their way home, Ed and Lorraine's car started behaving erratically. Their car started swerving and darting in and out of oncoming traffic. The steering stopped working and then would start again, same with the brakes. Everything about the car was just acting crazy. So Ed reached in the back seat, grabbed Annabelle out of the bag that she was in, and basically doused her in holy water and said some blessings to her, told her to cut it out, and they ended up being able to travel the whole rest of the way home safely, no weird car problems. Once the doll had arrived at their home, they started experiencing her levitating on her own. Then after that, she started doing the movements that she did at the last residence, where initially it was kind of body movements, positions changing, then being able to go to completely different rooms. The doll tended to really hate people of religious backgrounds, and with them being Catholic and in the field of work that they were in, they had a lot of priests that came over to the house and that were friends and that were often visitors. Father Jason Bradford came by one day, picked up the doll after hearing about its activity, and said, "You're just a rag doll, Annabelle. You can't hurt anyone," and threw it down. After that, on his way home, he had his brakes fail in the middle of a very busy intersection and was in a near fatal car accident. After this, a special case was built for this doll. It's still living in its case in the Warrens' Occult Museum. While she doesn't move around anymore, there is a story that a younger couple had traveled to the museum, were checking out everything, heard the story of the doll, and decided that they wanted to kind of see it actually do something. So, story goes that the boyfriend's knocking on her case and taunting her a little bit, saying, "I heard you could scratch people. Scratch me. Why don't you scratch me? You should do something." And Lorraine got a little bit ticked off and said, "You need to leave." On the way home, the boyfriend and the girlfriend are riding a motorcycle, supposedly still laughing about the fact that the doll was ridiculous and obviously not haunted, and they were in a fatal motorcycle accident. Do you guys think that it's possible for this entity to be trying to attach to people but still be attached to the doll in some way? Do you think it's possible to have haunted dolls? Have you experienced anything with a haunted doll? I'm really actually pumped that I found this doll because she's been living in a box for like 10 years. And I've renamed her Annabelle because of this story. So I hope you guys enjoyed hearing the true story of the real Annabelle doll. And if you guys have any questions, comments, stories of your own, please tell me about them. Hi to all of my subscribers, new and old. I love each and every one of you, and I'm so freaking happy that you're here. I love our little paranormal community that we're creating, so I hope you enjoy the rest of your night. Have an awesome one, and I will talk to you soon. Bye!